Hi, everyone. This is Chris with some crappy lighting. I just wanted to start this episode by saying Josh is someone that I've known for a long time, friends with my brother in law, met each other through the music scene, or became friends through the music scene. And we had initially had like an idea as where we wanted to go with the conversation for today's episode, but about halfway through, we landed on something that I wasn't aware of. So I'm nixing all of the first half of this episode. I really don't think it's as important as what he and I discuss uh, with what I'm releasing. So that's why it seems like episode kind of starts in a weird spot. It's just because we had something more important to discuss. So enjoy the show.
When it comes to because I do notice that you're in a much different place um than fuck, I'm trying to think of how long ago,
Fuck, I don't remember
because I
either.
remember seeing you at a show and being like, I recognize that guy, but I didn't necessarily connect it until Chris was like, oh yeah, that's Josh.
Yeah.
So I remember like seeing a more timid version of you,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing what I would consider the more enlightened version of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily know what's happened in that time frame to change that. So this advocacy that you now have for mental health,
Mm-hmm.
um, why is it that you want to now spread that out?
I don't know if you saw my post on Facebook the other day, but it was basically like 2 years ago is when basically like started a new chapter. Like the previous 4.5 years, I was in a tumultuous relationship with a person that I met online. They came here, and it was just 4.5 years of like the person themselves was an addict. Um, they were uh, abusive verbally and physically, and they were the reason that I used to have long black hair, and she kept telling me over and over again, like my hair was one of the reasons that she was attracted to me, and she's basically like, shave your head or I'm gonna leave you. And so she was like constantly drunk, like 24/7 basically, and like smoking a lot of weed. And I know she had like BPD. Um like it wasn't diagnosed, but she had like all the signs were there. And I thought, since I had, very limited relationships experience, I was like, I guess this is how it goes. And then, I would come into work with uh black and blue eyes or scratch marks on my arms. People kept, asking me if I was okay. I was like, you gotta dump this. And I was like, I don't know how. I don't even know where to begin. And then one day it just got so bad where a coworker of mine, he's like, if you ever need a place to stay, let things blow over or whatever, he's like, I'm there. And then I called him. I was like, you remember how you told me that I could come over if things got really bad? Things got really bad. So I need to get out. And so he picked me up, and I stayed at his place for like 2 days, or not 2 days, 2 weeks. And then everything, person kind of moved out, and then I came back home, and then that's when I just started to like try and gather myself, like, okay, it's over. Like this this nearly half decade long nightmare is finally over. Yeah, you're gonna have non-flashbacks. You gotta be ready for that. You're not gonna just get over something like that overnight. And I still get non-flashbacks, like in the middle of nothing. I'll be like watching a game or listening to music, and all of a sudden, it's like wartime in my head. Basically, I just started working. Like, I was like, I'm just gonna work, the more days I can get between myself and this, the better. And then I kept thinking to myself too, I'm like, I survived this. Like this was living hell. And I don't want people to go through what I went through. I don't want people to suffer just because they feel like that's the right way, because it's not. Your intuition is always that thing that's saying you can't know exactly what it's saying, but it's like something's not right here. And I want people to be able to help them tune into their intuition, to be able to be like, hey, your health, your mental health, your physical health is much more important than trying to have a relationship. Like if that's what it takes, then don't be afraid to be like, hey, I need to breathe. I need me time. I need to be away from this. I want people to be able to learn from my mistakes, from my experiences, and be like, okay, I don't have to go through this because this doesn't feel right. If someone gives you bad juju, bad vibes, whatever, like just step away. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but I want people to learn from my experience because it took a like my depression was bad before that, but it like it sent it into like the deepest like that it's ever been. Like I was working to try and escape my depression, my anxiety. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna bury myself in work, and deal with it, on the weekends or whatever. And I want people to be able to feel comfortable about talking about their struggles and be able to say I'm worth it. Like my mental health is worth it.
I mean, that, when you talk about non-flashbacks when it comes to that, like that's genuine PTSD. Like you genuinely, when it comes to um I forget what like the technical term would be, but like um when your home environment, when you're choosing to go back to throw yourself back into the thing that is causing you all of this anxiety and uncertainty, night after night, because you don't know what else to do. It's an environmental something, but like you're basically hostage.
Yeah.
So whatever has happened, you've been conditioned to the point to where whether you feel like I'm so worthless that this is the only person that I'm ever gonna like I got into this relationship because they saw me for me or whatever. Um they're the only person that's ever going to see the real me. They're the only person that's ever going to have, this scope, and they're the only one that actually understands me. These justifications for why you're willing to put up with all of the other things that are taking away from who you are as a human being. Um yeah, you really are, um like as much as we've been joking about the non-flashback thing, like it's, yeah, that environmental, like situational, um entrapment.
Yeah.
Like it's yeah, it's I've I've been in it in a slightly different scenario. So my understanding is not the same, because I had somebody else on who was in a similar situation, and everybody that I've talked to who has been in a relationship like that, the to me, like the most heartbreaking part is almost all of them, all of the survivors had to have somebody say, "Hey, if you ever need to get away from there, you can come stay with me."
Yeah.
Which is to say, like, if you're, it's so weird because you're escaping your own situation. You're escaping the thing that you created,
Mm-hmm.
And for somebody to come and say, if you're ever too scared of home as an adult, then come stay with me.
Yeah.
Like that, it's so sad because maybe not sad. I mean, yeah, it is sad, but it's unfair
Yeah.
because that should be your place.
That should be your
Like,
safe haven.
I tell Kim all the time, like, I'm so lucky to have this house. It's the safe place. I never dread going home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, home is my escape from all the other shitty things.
Yeah.
So when somebody has been able to make you feel like you have to escape the place where you lay your head at night, like, it's so fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I feel bad that we wasted time on talking about music and Malacca because we should have been talking about this shit.
Well, it's fun. It's like,
But so to bring that back around, like, you got to a point to where you want to be able to help people understand like how to get out of there. What was the tipping point that did finally make you say, like, how soon after they said, hey, if you ever need a place to go, like, did it seem like it was fairly quick?
yeah, it was like within a couple of weeks. She got in a drunken tirade again. Little side note, in that relationship, I went through 4 TVs. Like, and that's why I don't have a very big TV at home, is because it's like, that's the last one that I had, and I don't want to spend any more money on it, at least for the time being. Just throwing shit. It didn't matter if I was in the way or not. There was actually a couple times where she came at me with like a knife, and I even feel bad about it, but I had to grab her wrist and like basically squeeze it, pry her fingers off of it, and scissors too. I had to pry those out of her hands and basically put them like where she couldn't reach them.
Yeah, and I would imagine you did not press charges.
Mm-mm. There was a time where she was like grabbing my hair when it was long. She was grabbing on it and literally just pulling tufts of it out. And I was just trying to pry her off of me, because it's like you're in self-defense mode at that point.
Yeah.
And she was a lot shorter than me. She was like 5'1", 5'2".
Okay.
And so like I tried to get her off, and she like slipped on the floor and like hurt herself. And I felt so bad that in my panic state, I called the cops, because I thought that I was in the wrong.
Wow.
And I was like, I can't live with myself. And then the cops came, and she refused to talk to them, and she's like, you said what you said. You obviously feel bad. But she's not saying anything, so we can't press charges. So you guys just need to sleep this one off or whatever, and try and get better, and hopefully we don't have to come back here.
That's the other gnarly thing is like most victims, male or female, are not going to the police.
Mhm.
And because to some degree you feel like it's your fault. Like you're at fault for some aspect of it, no matter how gnarly the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't imagine the times that you've described this, that somebody's been like, well, why were you doing this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
even though to you it feels, heavy, and I think maybe it is because that whole, to some degree, you put yourself in this situation, right? Even though it's just as simple as, hey, I like you. Now we're in a relationship. Hey, what do you think about living together?
Yeah.
Like, that's so basic.
Yeah.
Like, as to your involvement in everything else that happened after that fact. But because you technically had that involvement, like, you're always going to feel that type of attachment as to like, well, I was complicit or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, which yeah, it's that's the heartbreaking thing, like the unfairness of what I see is like, I wish that people never felt like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like as the farther you get removed from it, that you're able to shed that feeling of responsibility for what was done to you.
Yeah.
It's also super wild to me when I see people who like are not going to like DBT or like doing like trauma therapy for having gone through some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because your facial expression even has changed from talking about these things versus what we were talking about before, and like so you can see that like it still like physically has an effect on you too. And
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean, I hope that that, I mean, everybody says it like there's always somebody you can talk to and yada yada. Like I can trauma dump with you back and forth and have a good old time.
Oh yeah. Have a dump truck full of trauma,
Yeah, but
bury ourselves
as
in.
far as like how to actually process and remove the guilt from the trauma is super tricky, and I don't really know how to do that. So I have a fuckload of respect for therapists, psychiatrists who specialize in that field, because it's so sticky to try to, it's like brain surgery, man. Like
Yeah, it is.
it's
It literally, it's like brain surgery without the physical tools.
yeah.
Um, Another thing I want to be like this actually reminded me. One of the things I want to like be an advocate for is like obviously there's in like these traumatic relationships, there's so many stories I've seen of like women getting abused and obviously that's I my heart breaks every time like I see one of those. But like since I've been through what I've been through, um there's always this stigma that guys, you know, if guys get abused, they're not supposed to say anything. They're supposed to like quote unquote tough it out or be a man or whatever. And it's like, when a guy gets abused, it's like not just the physical abuse, but it's also the mental toll it takes on him. He's like, am I less of a man? Am I are people gonna see me as lesser than? And I wanna be able to like help or at least have people know that it's okay, guys that are going through like physically abusive relationships, um that it's okay for you to speak out. It's okay for you to be like, I am getting abused, I'm getting harmed on a constant basis. It's um it's something that I want to help remove the stigma of, because you know being not crying or whatever doesn't make you tough. It just, it makes you look like you're just burying your shit because people tell you to. And if you feel like you need to cry, if you feel like you need to leave something because you're getting abused, then I want guys to be able to feel like, hey, I can step away from this because it's harmful to me and this isn't going anywhere.
I mean, for so long, I mean, even now, honestly, like the physical allowance when it comes to serious relationships, um, I like Kim and I have an understanding that if things ever get physical, if one of us ever gets physical towards the other, then it's done.
Yeah.
Like that's the one thing that like there's no conversation that either of us should have. Whether I'm doing it to you or you're doing it to me, like that's the only thing that I've ever like had a hard stance on. Um, but we were and sometimes still are looked at as weird for the fact that she doesn't slap me.
Yeah.
And so this physical allowance that women have, and this is not to say that women don't go through stuff, because it is far more on their side of things that
Definitely.
they're victims compared to men. But when it comes to this physical allowance thing, I mean, you talk to married couples, and if you ask the guy if he's ever been slapped, or like, not necessarily slapped across the face, but like just like that barrage of like slapping or whatever, like
Mm.
many, many men just put up with that because women are weaker, and so it's fine. It's like it's this like funny thing or whatever. But it if we're gonna condition partners to say, I am not able to verbally get across what I want to, or I'm so angry right now and you're not taking me seriously, so I am allowed to start hitting you.
Yeah.
It is crazy. And to some degree, like, it is a detriment to women as well, because like eventually I mean, that's the hope, is that it is completely unacceptable.
Mm.
But because they've been conditioned to think that, oh, no, 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 if your boyfriend or whatever pisses you off enough, yeah, you're allowed to slap him or smack him across the head. Like, it's fucking weird.
The way it gets portrayed in movies,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the movies kind of paint it as, hey, fucking listen to me. And they kind of almost like paint it in a comedic kind of light. And it's like, no, it's not. And it's like,
Or is to say that like they're not being serious unless they slap you.
yeah. It's like, okay, now shit is leveled up. It's like, no, you just the whole slapping thing. I have, even when I was little, like, and I would see it in movies, I always felt, I was like, why? Why are you, why do you need to be attacking somebody physical, even if it's quote unquote just a slap?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do you have to do that to get their attention?
Yeah. The physical it's same. It's never made sense to me, like, especially like once I started getting into relationships, like it just didn't, because the thought is, okay, so if the movement over the last, I would say, I don't know, 60, 70 years has been like, we need to be as equal as possible, right? In all fields, in the work field, in the home environment, like all of these things, we're wanting them to be as equal as possible. Why is this one thing still lingering
Yeah.
and still so barbaric? Like, historically speaking, like this is a very barbaric thing to be in. What is it? 2019. In 2019, for us still, in 2023, for us still to be
I
doing.
had a major brain fart there. I'm like, yeah, it is 4 years ago right now.
But you know what I mean? Like, for it to be, for us to be as advanced as we are now, for that to still be a thing that is so widely accepted is crazy, and does nothing to help in that argument for equality.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a genuinely safe home environment if one person has the trump card of, hey, guess what? I still get to be physical.
Yeah. I was saying like the slapping has been like, how long has it been going on? For like hundreds of years probably. Like, how often is it portrayed in movies, TV shows and whatnot? And newsflash, it doesn't always turn out, the reaction isn't always the same in the movies as it is in real life. In
Yeah.
fact, it's real. Like, most people aren't going to take too kindly to like being physically assaulted or emasculated or whatever you want to call it. It's like they're being taken down a peg just because they didn't like get what you were saying, or you didn't have their full attention for like half a second.
Yeah. Yeah. And, or even if the concept is like, how could so let's say you genuinely did something wrong, right? Like you were hiding, I don't know, let's say you're a porn addict, and they found out that you were secretly watching porn. Your reaction is not justified to be able to hit them.
Correct. Yeah.
It's still whatever the thing is. I get being angry, but that is not an invitation to be able to go and hit that person because you now need to convey how wrong they are.
Yeah.
They
No.
get it.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, like I can guarantee you, like most people, when something is found out that they did wrong, they're gonna get it, especially if you confront them with it.
Yeah. And like, yeah, when you use the right words in the right tone without like trying to like hurt them, it's more effective. It's like it's what you wanted to accomplish with a slap, but without actually having to raise your hand towards them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a mind fuck. I like I said, I don't fully understand because I don't know. All I know is how I feel about the concept. And so it's tough for me to go, what scenario am I in to where I go, oh, I have to shed all of the things that I actually feel about this because it's her. So I have to allow it to happen because I can't let this go, or to whatever degree I deserve this. It just doesn't compute with me because I haven't been in that situation. So it is important to have these conversations because it's tough to, with everything that's happening to victims, it's tough to get people to listen to that side of things
Yeah.
because and there's guys that are ruining it too that are saying like,
Oh yeah.
meninists.
Meninist.
Yeah.
I saw that movement. I'm like, what a lord of horse hockey.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But that is not, but so it just, shit like that makes it that much harder for people to be like, you do have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
You do have to understand.
Yeah.
Let's pretend that it's a gay couple.
Yeah.
All right. If it's hard for you to wrap your head around why, a woman slapping her boyfriend or husband or whatever should be viewed as seriously, imagine it's a gay couple and it's two dudes and one of them is clocking the other one.
Yeah.
Like, if for some reason you take that one more seriously than the other, then you need to start doing some inner dialogue or start talking to more people. Like,
Yeah.
it's the same.
Yeah, it is.
It's domestic abuse is domestic abuse is domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of whose hands are flying, like something has gone wrong to where they think that the only acceptable recourse is a physical one.
Yeah. And for some people like me who like encounter that like on a regular basis multiple times a day, it seemed, um you start to feel like I deserve that. You feel like it's your fault. And you want to prepare yourself for it. So the words you choose become you you pick and choose your words a lot more carefully, and you become more and more scared to say things. Like you like run these scenarios through your head and you're like, hopefully this one sticks so I don't get slapped or the drinking starts or whatever. And then we just all go downhill from there. Like you become incredibly much more guarded with just like your words to speak. And when your home is a war zone, then it's like, and you're like, I got nowhere else to go.
So you are at this person's house for, you said, a couple weeks.
Yeah, it was like 2.5 weeks, I think.
Were were there people that you could talk to about it beyond, like, I can imagine that it's terrifying to want to admit this to people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, were there people that you were able to start confiding in?
Yeah, there's a few friends that I was able to confide in. I like didn't tell them everything, but I told them enough to where they would understand because like obviously, trauma dumping is it's it's not for everybody. It's not rated PG. Sometimes it's rated R, and I the just even talking at a PG-13 level, like to people, at least it felt like I was less alone, and like in that. And then the guy I was staying at, he he was kind of the same way. Like I told him like these things or whatever, and he's like, "You just got to get out of there." Like, I mean, it doesn't matter like who served what. You're getting physically and mentally abused, and I'm sick of seeing you come into work with cuts all over your forearms and black and blue eyes, and your demeanor is not what it was. And there was definitely people that helped, and pet therapy actually helped a lot too,
Mm.
because I have a cat that lives at my parents' house. He's 15 now. His name's Yoshi. He's a big fluffy Maine Coon,
Ooh.
and he's spoiled like with attention like beyond anyone's understanding. And he can always tell, like, he's got this animal like instinct, like, hey, my my human is off. Like, and he'll be extra affectionate and extra like mushy or whatever. He does this thing where he'll like lay on on my back shoulders, and if I'm wearing a hat like backwards, he'll nudge it off with his head, like, this is obstructing my way.
Oh, that's funny.
And he always had this he's always had this way of just like purring on the back of my neck, like kind of like the reverb of his purring, like kind of, it helped me feel better. I always made this joke that I was going to my cat's house to see my parents.
I like it.
And yeah, he helped out a lot, but obviously with um my parents living about 30 miles away, I wasn't able to see him every day. So with this abusive ex, we did one of the good and very few good things that came out of it was the ferret.
Mm.
Her name was Kiwi, and we got her when she was a runt at Petco, and it was almost kind of like me, where like we picked her out because every other ferret was picking on her. She was
Oh.
she was the smallest, and we took her and gave her as good a home as we could have, or as I could have.
Yeah.
And after my ex left or whatever, oftentimes Kiwi would be the only company that I would see outside of work. I would just either play GTA and just let my ferret run around, and that would be the vast majority of my day. And having like an animal that would like come up and just like lick your nose and
Mm.
be like, I know you're going through stuff, but I depend on you, so I'm happy for your existence without even saying a word. It's that stuff does a lot more help than what you can describe.
Yeah. I mean, it's purpose. Purpose. So I got purpose and survive tattooed on my hands because at like the basic level, that's really all anybody is looking for. And purpose can be as like minimal as, you know, and I used to give the example is like I have a cat at home that I need to go and take care of, and if I'm not there, then nobody's going to change the litter box. Nobody's like, even though those things don't take up your entire life, having some semblance of purpose can make a huge difference in progression.
Yeah.
Um, and so that makes so much sense. And yeah, I'm happy that you had something like that. and I'm happy that there's a real world example where I can talk to people about now too.
Yeah.
Is like, because it really can be that basic, and it really can make that big of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because so much of mental health stuff, addiction, like seems like there has to be some like, you know, like movie magic moment where it's like the clouds parted, and then I was like, oh fuck yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like things are looking up, things are looking my way. It's like
Yeah.
no, like sometimes it's very minimal,
Mm-hmm.
and just because these massive things aren't happening, you still need to learn to appreciate this thing. And
Exactly.
because this thing seems small doesn't mean that you should give it any less attention.
Exactly. Like, if just because it's like a small like task doesn't mean it doesn't have the same impact that a big thing would have on you. Like those types of little things always like kind of like kept me going. Like two of the mainstays that I've had throughout all that tumultuous bullshit was August Burns Red and my cat. Like those are two of the main things that like that I could rely on for just being there without like um without casting any judgment, without like, hey, you're weird, you're wrong, you just belong. And I actually one of my friends is going to be coming up um to tattoo at Elliott's in Little Falls.
Oh,
and
no shit.
and her and I had been talking for a long time about doing a portrait of my cat on my leg, and she's finally going to be able to do it now. I'm gonna get a tattoo of my cat like on my calf muscle.
Sweet.
So yeah,
Well, who's
that's
doing it?
Mina Goetker.
Hey, I
Yeah,
was like, cool.
yeah.
Yeah. She's been doing some super sick work.
I've seen like some of her portrait work, like of animals and whatnot, and it is stellar. It is 10 out of 10, and I'm lucky to be able to have this kind of connection like with her because we used to be roommates. And then my ex came, and then um, we all had a falling out, and then after the dust settled from that relationship, I was like, okay, I have to mend fences because in that time span, I let a lot of people just drift away. And
Oh.
I was like, Mina was one of the first people that I messaged. I was like, no, I'm sorry that um, all that happened. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was like following my heart, and I should have listened. I should have trusted my gut. And she's like, that's okay. I understand and I forgive you. And I had to do that with a fair amount of people, and they're like, dude, you're fine. Um,
Yeah, they're just happy to have you back. Like
yeah, yeah,
that's another shitty part of that is like, yeah, you do start cutting ties because people don't understand. Like your that self-talk is like they don't understand, or you're ashamed of the fact that they're too close to this thing.
hmm,
So they start to know too much, and you're like, "Oh, I'm never going to get out of this, so I don't
yeah,
want them to continually remind me of the
yeah,
situation I'm in."
yeah. It was one of the more gratifying experiences that I've had was like just telling people I'm out. I am I'm back. I'm out. My family was really really relieved to know that I wasn't going through that anymore. And I've got two nephews out of state, and I know that they were when I took a trip to see them um this last year, they were extremely happy to see me, and I was extremely grateful and happy to see them too. So I only see them like every few years, and
Mm.
it was really nice to just feel loved and feel like, hey, you have nothing to feel sorry for, and you're fine. You're accepted and loved.
Well, man, I mean, it's hard to, because a lot of times when I have people on, I'll say like, do you have any advice for people who are going through these things, or like, um, were there signs um that you started to pick up on that maybe I should get out of this situation, but you still hung on for longer than you should have? Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
were there hints to yourself? So, like, what were those signs that you could have gotten out earlier that people could look out for now? Does that make sense? Like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of like how to word it, but because looking back now, you can be like, oh yeah, I should have left like two
Yep.
weeks in or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
you think back on some of those moments where you're like, I had that thought of I should end things, but I didn't.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah. Like, it's like when they start like guilting you, when they start manipulating you, making you feel bad, you're like they're like, well, I did all of this to come be with you or whatever. I did all this to like for you. And I was it's like at that point you start to see if that gets any worse. Like the manipulation via guilt. It's like it's one of the first red flags that I should have picked up on right away. And if I would have, it's cliche, but if I would have known then what I know now, I would have saved myself a lot of angst, a lot of time, a lot of money, and yeah, just guilt by manipulation. If it's like a continuous habitual thing, then you may want to like start thinking, hey, is this really right? Are they with me for the right reasons? Or are they with me just because they feel bad? Or
mm,
or they want to make you feel bad for like having thoughts of leaving.
that gaslighting.
Yeah, gaslighting.
I didn't realize how broad gaslighting was until maybe like within a year,
Hmm.
which is to say, when you're having an argument with somebody and their way to try to win the argument is to go, oh, you're right, I'm the worst.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is you now have to make them feel better.
Yeah.
So they're saying, they're throwing that thing out there because now you're forced to make up for the shitty thing that they just said.
Hmm.
So they're holding all of the balls.
Yeah, they are.
Like they're taking complete control over the situation. And now on a manipulative, like an emotional level, they're saying, Are you being this way to me because you don't love me anymore? And it's like,
Hmm.
don't fucking, we're just talking about taking out the garbage. Like,
Yeah.
this shouldn't be like I'm having to defend my love for you or whatever. Like, so yeah, when they hold, they're able to find your emotional like breaking point
Hmm.
to where they then get to flip it, and then now they're in control.
And also that gaslighting too, like them making you apologize is basically them like glossing over and trying to be like, okay, whatever I just did, it's gone. Like we've forgotten about it. It's forgiven.
Yeah.
And that it just keeps happening and getting worse and worse. And like that's one of the first signs that you need to really start doing some reevaluating of the situation you're in.
Yeah. Yeah, that the maintaining moral superiority by tricking you into apologizing or into like fluffing them up,
Hmm.
talking them up. Yeah.
And it's not even like just like romantic relationships either. It's
Oh,
like
yeah, no.
it's friendships, it can be family, it can be coworkers, it can be whatever. I mean, if that gaslighting is making you second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, get seventh guess yourself, then it's not healthy for you because you're you're constantly in a state of, what am I doing wrong? I'm always wrong. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And it fucks with your head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you like I'm glad that I worded it that way, like the enlightened version of you. Like now it makes more sense. It's the lighter version of you because you're
Mhm.
not burdened with these things anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, we're always psyched to see you at the shop, and um, it's yeah, it's you can tell that there's a different version of you that's uh being allowed to live,
Mhm.
and it answers that question of why you were wanting to come on and talk about this stuff is like there is still need for these conversations, like
Mhm.
a big need for it. And so
Yeah.
I just want to let you know I appreciate you doing this. It's not an easy thing.
No.
Even with where you're at now, like I can tell like these are not easy conversations to have. These are not
No, they're not.
easy stories to, now this is forever going to be on TikTok and people will be
Yeah.
doing the split review thing or
Yeah.
whatever it's called. I don't know.
And like right now, the relationship I'm in right now is like, there couldn't be a more opposite, like, um on the like just healthy spectrum.
Yeah,
Like,
that's because she's from Oregon. So,
yes, 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 yes.
fellow Oregonite, what's up?
You are organized. Um, but no, it's like the complete opposite. Like, it's funny because her and I met on Hinge, it's a dating website.
Which is that Christian divorcee dating?
No,
No? Oh.
it's just like it's like a better version of Tinder. It's like a less. It's like Tinder's just like bubble, like everyone in your bubble is fuckable, the
Mhm.
fuckable bubble.
Yep.
And Tinder, or not Tinder, but Hinge, it's like you can, there's more compatibility things or whatever. It'd be like, hey,
Mm.
you might be compatible with this person. So we matched, but her profile said she was from Oregon. So I'm like, I don't know how I matched with somebody 2 time zones over, but what the hell? So we started talking, like exchanging memes and whatnot. And then one night, she asked me, "Do you want to come over? Do you want to come pick me up or whatever?" And she sent me her location. I'm like, "You've been in Minnesota this entire fucking time." And she thought that I just wasn't that into her, and I just told her that. And then, like, after a few times of hanging out or whatever, like, I asked her to be my partner in crime on her birthday. And we both kind of went into it thinking, well, we got nothing to lose. May as well give this a shot. And we kept seeing each other. And then like things kept, they just progressively kept getting better. And then she ended up moving in with me, which I was a little, like a little part of me was a little apprehensive about it.
Sure.
But I was like, okay, trust your gut. Your gut tells you that she's different. She likes you. She's nice. She's not gonna throw jars at you while you're huddled in the corner of the kitchen. She's not gonna stab you with a knife. She's just gonna be there. She's gonna be supportive with her cat. And she
Did you bring her to Best Buy and stand her in front of a bunch of TVs and be like, "Do you feel the need to tip any of these over?"
That would have been a good barometer. I still have the same TV, so something's working. But no, she brought up her cat. We rented a moving truck, got all of her stuff out of storage, and I knew things were completely different when instead of like putting holes in the walls and like throwing shit, she was decorating the walls.
Oh.
It was so like, it was such like a simple thing, but I came home and like I just about cried.
Oh man, that almost made me start crying. I get it. That's fucking ooh.
Yeah. And uh, fuck.
No, I get it, man. That's I like when something that seems so simple like stops you, that's when you're like, "Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like in a safe place now."
Yeah, that's when I knew like things are gonna be okay. Like things are gonna be fine. Um yeah, I just felt like home was a home again. Like between my ex and her, it was just like it was home, but it was just like it was so unorganized. Like I just came home and lived in, I don't want to say squalor, but I just I didn't care about anything other than myself, my music, and my ferret, and
Yeah.
like and the bed that I slept on. And she did those things, and like she would um without even like just out of the blue, she would just like do these nice things for me. And so like for like the first 12 months that we were together, I would like for the first month I would buy her one rose. Then after 2 months, two roses, and so on and so forth. Until a year goes by, and on December 8th, I bought her a bouquet of roses. And I knew like in my other relationships, I always rushed to say I love you,
Oh, sure.
like right away. But I didn't say I didn't tell her I loved her till like 5, 6 months into it, when it didn't feel rushed. It just felt right. And it's like love wasn't a feeling. It well, it wasn't like a feeling. It was just like being with somebody who is willing to like do things with you, to see you get better, to want you to get better, to like do things without feeling obligated.
Yeah, I was going to say that notion that love isn't something I'm introducing to try and prove something right now. Love is I'm stating the obvious right now. Like there clearly there's love in this relationship, there's love in this environment. Like me saying it is more of like it's more of like an acceptance thing for you,
Hmm.
like to let you know that it's okay to love and be loved.
Yeah. And I still have like, obviously I'm still gonna have like my frustration, like my mood swings. I don't yell. I just get like a little bit zoned out, disassociating, whatever. But she doesn't like she won't give up. She'll still be there. And like that's even if I'm not showing any signs of like just rapid improvement, it's like I love like what you're doing. I love like the fact that you're not giving up on me. You're not giving up on, what we've built. And it's been a year and a half, and the things only keep getting better. And I feel like I'm about as happy as I could be, and as happy as I've been in a lifetime.
Well, that's awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this, dude. Really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to see you. I love
Likewise.
you.
Love you too.
And to the listeners, be well to yourselves.
Peace out.
No, I get the last. God damn it.